Hello everybody, Ranger Greg here. Welcome back. So before we go ahead and with the actual subject of our lesson, I wish to cover a few things related to the previous video. So we analyzed how water ascends in plants. We saw three concepts of osmosis, root pressure, and transpiration. So let's go through them very quickly. So it appears that having a strong root system is the only way forward, the only way to grow prosperously. Even the tallest tree needs his roots, no matter how mighty he is. So as we can see in this diagram, the water movement starts in the ground. The roots actively capture the minerals, which are electrically charged. These are called ions. And by the accumulation of ions in the roots, the concentration in the root increases, which allows the water to flow back passively from the ground to the roots. And this is called osmosis. Osmosis kind of works like filling up a water bottle from the bottom. As you can see in this example, we have the water being channeled from the bottom. And we can see the water slowly rise because the water has no other choice than follow the path of least resistance. The walls of the bottle cannot stretch, just like the channels present in the plant. And the water getting pushed up is called root pressure. The pressure of the water directed upwards, just like that, just like that. So root pressure stops being effective at around 2 feet. After that, the second force kicks in and drags the water upwards, which is called transpiration. Plants, by losing water from the leaves, drags up the whole water column and allows the water to reach even the highest places on the highest of trees. Once released into the atmosphere, the water is free to either go back into the ground or to rise up and collect and get back into a beautiful water cycle. Last week I introduced you to a very simple home experiment trying to demonstrate how water and minerals circulate through the plant. So here are some of the pictures found by some of the students. Every picture was taken right at the beginning of the experiment and 24 hours after. As we can see discolorization of the stem, leaves, and even sometimes petals. We're going to now focus on the actual subject of the lesson. We're going to try to find out why plants do not look the same, even if they're all green. Even that is not a constant. So, last week we looked at what was happening inside of a plant. We are, though, quite limited in our ability to see and explore internal tissues. With tissue, I mean the tissue of the living. A series of organized cells performing an equal function, which is basically the structure of all living beings. We are made out of tissues too, guys. Even if I would love to dive deeper into the study of internal tissues of plants, we are not well equipped to do so. A series of special dyes and microscopes and fine cuttings are needed to bring forth that information. So what can we do? We can focus on external morphologies, external traits. So we are basically going to stare intensively at leaves until they're going to tell us what's up. We're going to explore the relationship between plant morphologies and climates. So before we go ahead and dive into it, I want to define what a climate is. This map represents an overview of the distribution of the climates throughout this world and kind of looks like a layered cake if you think about it. The layers are quite similar, from north to the equator, from the equator back to south. So keep that in mind. A climate is determined by its geolocalization, basically where it is on this planet Earth. So a few factors come into play. First one, the latitude. How far are you from the equator? And this is important for the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. What's the actual distance you are from the very center of this globe? Second one, the altitude. how high up are you from sea level? Third, how close are you to a significant body of water or an ocean? Fourth, the pluviometry, the presence or absence of rain and its distribution throughout the year. Last but not least, winds. Significant winds impact significantly how moisture establishes itself, which impacts the local wildlife too. These broad climatic factors are ever-changing, ever-interacting, which create unique conditions and in some cases allow an extreme biodiversity to establish itself. In other parts, create very, very harsh conditions. So now, without further acceptance from scientific journals or peer-reviewed studies or even a big name to support my claim, I'm going to introduce you to my own classification of climatic zones on this planet.
How dare you! Just way too cold.
Subtropical and tropical. Humid and temperate. High and dry. So we start to get the idea that different climates have different features. So intuitively, we can start thinking that some conditions are going to favor some species and are not going to favor others. So we're kind of going to explore what makes these species so adapted to these climates.
We're not the same.
Yes, we are. Have you noticed differences around you? Even in your backyard, in your neighborhood, or sometimes plants growing alongside boardwalks? You can start seeing that features are actually quite unique according to where these plants prosper. If you look at a landscape or a garden, you can definitely say,
Yep, it's a garden.
but you can also be like, oh my God, look at how different these plants are. It's all about your perspective and your level of critical thinking. It's just like the human race. You can range people in different categories according to this or according to that, the color, the texture, the economical background, the location or where they're from, or you can just combine both aspects. Consider them as a unit and see how diverse and special every single member of that community is. If you do that, everybody's happy. No matter what your opinion is, we can all agree that there are different levels of scrutiny. Meaning, how observant are you? How much detail are you applying to your observations? So, it's like anything. To get an idea of the whole picture, we need a whole range of small details, just to get a representative idea of what it is that we are observing. Have you ever heard about the metaphor of the elephant and the blind man? I'll be attaching a video to the video description giving you a very nice animation. Look into it. We can definitely do that with plants too. We can range them in families and groups, and we can also focus on very fine details. And for that, we need a very delicate eye. In plants, we have a root system that allows plants to capture minerals and water from the ground. We also have stems and leaves, which spit out these minerals and water throughout the plant and perform photosynthesis. Last but not least, we also have flowers, which attract pollinators, which allow plants to spread the seeds and guarantee that the next generation is going to grow prosperously. The easiest part to observe are aerial parts of plants, meaning non-buried parts of plants. In doing so, we can start training our eye to detect fine differences according to smell, texture, color, shape, and form. Your turn to work. I want you to go outside if you can, or stay inside, but make observations of what is actually growing around you. I need you to find 2 plants illustrating 3 different climates. So 6 pictures total. Under each picture, if you know the name of the plant that you took a picture of, write it down. But what mostly interests me is that what feature actually made you think that this plant is belonging to that specific climate. So again, 2 plants per climate, 6 pictures total. Second task, I want you to make drawings, sketches, doesn't need to be detailed, of what is now growing in your growing box. What details do you see? What structures do you see? Without knowing all the fancy scientific words, I just want to see how well you are at working with Scrutiny. I have a series of extra challenges for the ones that are really bored. I know some of you don't know what to do. Extra credit for the ones that can tell me what this plant is all about. Yes, you. Hey, can you find out what this is? What about all of this? Do you know what that is? What about that? What about this? Do you know what this is? It smells really nice. This was Ranger Greg, off duty right now, and it was a pleasure to have you. See you all. Till next time.